Septic sewer policy. Septic tank, septic sewer policy.
Okay, I requested the system and so forth. Our sewer pumping system is very liberal. We have cases where people's drains are actually stopped up, and we send the sewer, our septic tank sewer people out to check and see if it's the sewer, and most of the time, or the septic tank, and most of the time they pump the septic tank, but sometimes it isn't that problem. Now, in those cases, I think, number one, I think if we have a sewer stoppage, we should ask the tenant if it's a general situation with them, or if it just stopped all of a sudden, to see if it's from the tank to their utilities. Before we just jump at it and go pump the tank out. And if I think the homeowner needs to take some responsibility in that. We years ago, when we went to the system that we did, the board, the district told the people that we would almost automatically pump the tank on request. So, Bob, this is your...
Yeah, well, pumping out on request doesn't make any sense. And sometimes it's very difficult to tell where the problem is. If the inlet baffle in the tank is plugged, it'll back up to the house.
Sure.
So it seems like it's that inlet line from the house, but it may not be the inlet line. It may be the baffle in the tank that's the problem. So you can have a tank line, you can have a plugged line, or you can have a plugged baffle, or you can have a plugged outlet on the tank, which will back it all the way up to the inlet side of the tank and into the house.
Yeah, right.
So until you get somebody out there to actually expose the tank, pump it down at least low enough to be able to see what's going on in there, it's difficult to tell.
So pumping is kind of a diagnostic tool.
Yeah.
In terms of.
And what we have in some of the districts we work with, we have a portable pump where we can pump from a tank that's backed up over to a neighbor's tank to get it down far enough to take a look at it.
Are you cooking the pizza?
So that may be something we might want to consider, but it's not, I'm not sure.
Are you cooking the pizza?
I mean, if somebody's tank is plugging up all the time, it's a fault. But if we're only pumping it once every 5 years or less, I don't know what the solution is. Like I say, the options on what the problem can be are just too great.
I mean, the options when the septic tank backs up is you can pump the tank to inspect it, or you can call the plumber and have them roto-rooter your line.
Yep.
Right? It might be a tree root. It could be a tree root on either side.
Yep.
Of course, on our side, it's really not on the drain field. We don't have drain fields, but you could have a root intrusion on their line, which is what happened to me 2 years ago.
Yep.
It was plugged at the tank from tree roots that got in the joint, right at the tank.
Mm-hmm.
So the tank had been pumped.
And that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
And so to come out there and pump it again is just a waste of money, right? Complete waste of money. So, but the roto-rooter people couldn't seem to figure it out either. It was finally took an enterprising plumber with a shovel.
Yeah.
To actually figure it out.
Well, we camera them. If we can get a camera in them, we can. I mean, they're supposed to be clean out right by the house. We can put a camera in, check that line from the house to the tank. You can check from the tank out to see if you're draining. All of that with a camera.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest, least expensive way.
Yeah, well, we had a tank that in a matter of 2 or 3 years, that inlet would plug up, and of course we ran a camera down there. You know, I said I want this solved. I don't want to.
Yep.
And they got to the inlet, and sure, there was toilet paper buildup and so forth, but most of these tanks don't have that inlet exposed. I mean, we have.
You can get to them anyway. It's not a big deal. It takes about 15 minutes to pull a toilet and shove a camera down the drain.
Yeah.
So it's not. Like I said, it's not a big deal.
Quick question: what's it cost us to pump?
Yeah.
What does it cost to pump?
And we checked the flow. We checked. I mean, we checked the grade, and the grade was fine, but it just got to that baffle, you know, where it's actually just a big PVC T, and we got to that, and partially we had one gal that thought she was pretty smart when we had the toilet paper shortage, found that napkins worked fine.
Okay.
It costs us about $500. So it's $520 for a 1,000-gallon tank. And then recently, Drains Plus has started giving us a $20 discount for preferred customers. So it's $500 for the district for a 1,000-gallon tank.
Yeah.
So to get on TV, the plumber charged me several hours to get TV.
Yeah, it depends on how accessible.
Keep the pump.
Depends on how accessible it is.
Yeah.
But then there's another thing. Sometimes if somebody calls you out, if you got that access with handy, inspect the darn thing. Check the scum layer, the thickness of the scum layer on the top. Check the sludge layer on the bottom. The difference between those two layers, that's all you have to work with. And if they start encroaching on the inlet or outlet side, you got to pump it. Period.
Yeah.
And that tells you for sure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, but I'd like to say that between the scum layer, the sludge layer, and the inlet pipe and roots and baffles, the options are just phenomenal. And it's not something you can just pop the lid, jump down in the tank, and look around.
You can, but
It's not recommended.
Is this a frequent enough problem that it's costing the district a lot of money, or is it a rare circumstance, Ted?
my wife came up with the factor of, I don't know how we're doing with our septic tanks, whether they need pumped or not. And we looked on the records. One of them was pumped in 07. And that was the only one that they had record on, other than this problem one that I was talking about that we had previously. So there was 4 of them that there was no record on.
We
Three of them.
don't have a tank pumping or a tank inspection policy.
We don't have a regular tank pumping schedule policy, and that's because some people are snowbirds and
Tank inspection policies are something that we highly recommend, that at least every 5 years. I mean, even the city of Dover, where there's people there a lot, we have a regular tank inspection program where every 5 years. And then if you have tanks where people are identified as being snowbirds, sometimes you can go 10 years on those, but you inspect it, you don't pump it, you just inspect it.
but
Like what I
things
was saying
change
before,
so
where you
frequently
measure
here.
where you measure the sludge layer and the scum layer, and that's just a matter of sticking a sludge judge down in the tank, and not a big deal.
And-
But keeping track of it and doing it.
Well, anyway, they said that I don't know where we stand on tank, and I don't know when we're going to have a problem. Do we wait till we have a problem?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the way it has been.
Yes.
When we have a problem, we do it.
Yeah, it's best to not wait till it's a problem.
But, yeah,
It's
but
been 17 years since it's been pumped. 07.
07, yeah. But that one, we got by with an inspection because it was fine.
They didn't pump it?
No,
Why?
there was no need to. He says you've got at least a couple more years on it. But he made a report on it.
Yeah, so we really did want all of those pumped because it's been such a long time, and the other ones didn't have record. And I know that she was worried about the district spending money without needing to have them pumped. But a lot of the times, if they go 17 years, those solids that are in there do build up and adhere to the sides of the tank, and then it costs us more money for somebody to get in there and have to spray all of that out, which is why we like to stay somewhat regular with them. And if a customer like Faye comes in and they says, hey, has it been pumped recently? And 4 of them didn't have any record of it, and 1 of them was back in 07, we wanted to get all of them pumped to have some type of regular maintenance. And I know it costs $500, but that could save us money down the line, and then at least we have a record of having them pumped.
Well, you've got a record of the inspection
Okay.
on that one because it was working fine and the levels were great and it didn't need pumping.
We're just in an area of really high scrutiny when it comes to sewage spills because of our proximity to the lake. And so keeping a fairly close eye on that, regular inspections and pumping is.
Okay, but how many of those do we have out there? We've got hundreds of them.
When the district assumes the liability, though, it's our job to, so it does become a little bit of a problem if the customers are going to step in the way. The district has the liability. And so if it's $500 to safeguard a liability, and it is good, I guess, that it's not needed, but it would be nice to have something on the record that shows that the pump was regularly serviced.
And if we have a spill into the lake, you will have the Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, and DEQ at a minimum all here and be headline news. So,
Well, most of them would get to the lake, but we
Yeah.
cover a lot of them with the resort one. But there's some
Yep.
that would. Is it reasonable to put some kind of if we have no record of it being pumped up, or if it's been more than 10 years, that we would just go ahead and pump it if there's a problem.
And that's what we were trying to do.
Yeah, well, I can.
And then if they inspect it and say it's great, okay, but if they have a problem and they call in, let's get ahead and pump. If it's only been 5 years, maybe you ought to TV your line first.
yeah, we have tanks that people need to have pumped every 3 years. And we have other tanks people don't need to have pumped every 15 years. So it just depends on how they're used.
on their lifestyle, what they
Yes.
use to.
Well, if they're only here for, there's houses in this town that only have people in 4 weeks a year.
We had one down on Lake Coeur d'Alene just for 4th of July weekend. 4-bedroom house, 30 adults, 13 children. 4-bedroom, 2-bath house.
That's taxing. That's a system that hasn't been used much. If it hasn't been used.
Needless to say, we were pumping continuously.
Now, is there a factor that it would be good to list every tank and last time they were pumped and those that weren't, we don't have record of pump? I mean,
Do we have a spreadsheet that shows that?
Bob maintains that.
yeah.
We just don't have records that go back prior to.
Yeah, it only started a couple of years before the old operator left. So, yeah, if we don't have record of it being pumped and somebody calls and they say, hey, when was the last time it pumped? And it goes, over 10 years, we're certainly going to say, let's do our due diligence and get it pumped because it does start to do the integrity of the tank. And so we just like to, because we don't want to wait until there's a problem. I mean, obviously, if a customer calls and they have a problem, then we can call drains and say, hey, problem, get on it. And they're there same day. But we want to avoid those types of situations. And I know that there was the question of, oh, well, if somebody calls and they just want it checked, which is what we were trying to relay to Faye, is that it's $75 for the company to go out. So if we pay $75 each tank, but then at the same time, we have no record of this tank ever being pumped or one of them being 2007, we figured if we're going to spend that money, let's go ahead and service the tank and do our due diligence.
But if it's more than 10 years, we should probably go ahead and service it.
Yeah.
Even though some could make it 30 years.
I know, it's crazy. So the whole usage thing
It may not
is,
be wise to go 30 years because, like I said, I had one that was 17 years and it was hard.
yeah.
Well, I just envision, hundreds of tanks out there that don't have records.
Yeah, and that's why we want to get them on record.
Mm-hmm. When approximately what year does our record start then?
So I think it was 2006, but and one of them was 2007. But yeah,
Okay, so we've got 14 years of records anyway.
Yeah.
So truly, if it doesn't have a record, then it's old. We probably do.
Yeah.
And the reason that was pumped at that time was it was a request by either a realtor or.
Yeah, that's pretty common if
Yeah.
a sale happens. And so, like, sometimes we get a realtor and they're like, oh, have it pumped. And we're like, sorry, it was done 3 years ago. We're not going to. But if it's outside of the 5 year, I mean, our policy is they get one every 5 years. So
Even
even,
tell them no because it's not their tank.
yeah. Well, if it's outside the 5 years, they have the right to request
They're
it.
published as a
According to our
It's
policy.
not part of the property owner's property. We own it.
Well, if it's outside the 5 years, though, and it's requested, per policy, and the sewer fees that they pay, they have the right to have it done every 5 years.
No, and again, back to how many of this is actually happening and is it so significant that we need to spend a huge amount of time more on should or shouldn't or whatever. I mean, if it's 2 or 3 times a year and somebody sells their property and it's been more than 5 years.
Yeah, at this point, the
Makes
office
sense.
isn't experiencing a problem.
Yeah.
Anything more to consider there, Ted? Or?
No, that was just my concern. I can envision hundreds of them out there that and the people are totally most people are totally unaware of what goes on.
No, but they want to. I think it's good policy to have them done every 10 years, just as a basic thing. But
A tank should operate if it's operating properly at least 10 years, I think. But anyway, who knows? That would.
I got one tank at my place that went 23 years. We have 3 tanks up there and picked them regularly.
So anyway,
You're an outlier.
I think you need to
further
probiotics.
discussion.
Yeah.
you have a problem.
Can